The news of the untimely death of a distant relative caught Gerald off guard. Of course, the death of a still young woman and her husband in a car accident was a serious tragedy, especially considering that their young son was now an orphan. But Gerald couldn't say he was overwhelmed with grief. He wasn't close with Helen and her husband. However, he felt sorry for the orphaned child, and there were surely closer relatives who could take care of the boy. That's what Gerald thought as he prepared to attend the funeral and the wake. His wife, Willa, refused to go. "Oh, why would I go? I only saw Helen a couple of times. May she rest in peace. I have to meet the kids from school and then take Juliet to her art lesson and her son to the swimming pool." Gerald didn't hold it against his wife or consider her heartless. After all, people die every day. You can't mourn them all. Besides, Willa was one of those overprotective mothers who believed that the moment they let go of their children's hands, something terrible would happen. So Gerald went alone. There were quite a few people at the sombre ceremony, mostly colleagues. Relatives were few, the family wasn't large. Gerald's aunt approached Gerald with tears in her eyes. "Gerald, what a sad occasion for us to meet," she said. "Poor Helen, poor Thomas, they had so much life ahead of them. And little Eugene, their son, just 10 years old and now an orphan." She pointed to a sullen, tear-stained, chubby boy. "Will he go to an orphanage?" Gerald asked. "Well, there are relatives. Helen's sister can't. Her husband is bedridden after a stroke. They have 2 school-aged daughters and live with sick parents. Thomas's sister just had twins a month ago, and besides, she has 2 older kids. I'm almost 70, with 40 health issues. My daughter has 3 kids of her own, and her husband drinks heavily. So, Gerald, you and Willa is the best option." "Well, if there's no one else, we'll take him, of course," Gerald agreed. At that moment his heart truly went out to the boy. He remembered how he felt when his own mother died, and he was already 20. "Take him, Gerald. It's the right thing to do. God will bless you for it. Think yourself. You live well, Willa doesn't work, and your kids are almost the same age as Eugene. They'll be friends." And so Eugene's fate was decided. But as Gerald drove home, he had some doubts. He didn't take the boy with him right away. He needed to prepare a place for him and tell his family about the new member of their family. And he knew that the dynamics would change in their house. At home, Willa looked at her husband sympathetically. "How did it go, Gerald?" she asked, probably feeling a bit guilty for not going to the funeral herself. "It was tough, of course, and there's something else. The boy, Helen's son, is 10. It looks like we need to take him in. There's no one else, Willa." Willa rarely disagreed with her husband, but this time was different. "Come on, Gerald, think about it. This is a huge responsibility, and we already have our own children. How will they react? Money-wise, we'll be fine, of course, but there are things to consider." "What other things? I get that you'll have to do most of the work. I know raising kids is tough, but you're already handling 2, so what's one more? Let's figure out where we can make room." Willa saw that her husband's mind was made up. Arguments were useless. "We need to tell the kids," she said with a sigh. The children were doing their homework in their rooms. The family had a comfortable 3-bedroom apartment where everyone had their own space. The smallest room belonged to 9-year-old Louis. 14-year-old Juliet had a larger room. The parents' bedroom was the same size, and the largest room served as the living room. Everyone gathered there to discuss the news. "Kids," the father announced seriously. "Helen and her husband have passed away. They left behind a son, Eugene. He is 10 years old. Besides us, there is no one else to take him in. So he will live with us." "Well," Juliet drawled, "and why we? I don't need a new brother. I'd gladly give away Louis to an orphanage. And now we have to take one more naughty boy. Shut up, Juliet. You're the one waiting at an adoption centre. Dad, better give away Juliet before taking someone in. I won't share my room with him. No way. All right, kids. We're not discussing whether to take him. It's a done deal. Eugene will live with us. I'll bring him soon, and there's no arguing about it. We need to decide where to put him. There's no space for another bed in Louis's room. I think you two should swap rooms. Juliet, take the small room, and the boys—
"Oh, wonderful!"
Juliet exclaimed, her eyes welling up with tears.
"I'm not leaving my room. I've set it up exactly how I like it. Why should I have to move? I'll just run away from home. Is that what you want?"
Stop being dramatic, Juliet. Where would you even go? You'll end up in an orphanage if you're out on the streets. Fine, I won't run away. I'll give up school as soon as possible, go to work as a waitress or cleaner, and live with strange roommates, and your precious Eugene can use my easel and go to art school instead of me. With that, the girl rushed out of the room, ignoring her parents' calls. Louis was equally determined. I'll leave too. I don't want to live with a stranger, and with that he walked out. Well, dear, I'm not sure about Eugene, but it seems we've already strained our relationship with our own children, Willa said sadly. They're too young to understand. Over time they'll adjust to having a new brother and the changes. Let's focus on the immediate issue. Where will we set up a space for our new son? He can't share a room with Louis, and we can't displace Juliet either. Let's not make the situation worse. Let's figure out how we can create a corner for him here in the living room. Willa sighed deeply. She adored this living room. She had selected every item so carefully, arranging the furniture with thought and love. Now, everything would be disrupted by the presence of an outsider, and they occasionally had guests over. Adults, serious people who stayed late. Where would they put the boy then? And how would it look, having a bed in the main room? Nevertheless, they had to set up a space, if not a room, for their new son. And so the parents got to work. Gerald was practical and energetic. Willa hid her discontent carefully. The children occasionally peeked in, watching their parents, and snickered. Juliet decided to speak up first. Dad, Mum, we need to put a lock on my room so he can't get in. Yeah, and on mine too, Louis chimed in. All right, listen up, kids, Gerald said sternly. There will be no locks or barriers between us in this apartment. Eugene is your brother. We are one family, whether you like it or not. Deal with it. The children left dissatisfied. Juliet and Louis had never been particularly close, but these new circumstances united them. They discussed the changes that awaited the family and made plans for the near future. They decided to make it clear to the new family member right away who was really in charge in their home. And so Eugene entered his new home. The boy was still depressed, but curiosity won out. He had never had siblings, and now he would have a brother, a stepsister, and new parents. He wasn't ready to consider them family right away, but he decided they were good people. They had known his parents, and they would treat him well. His new siblings came out into the hallway to meet him. He stood before them, embarrassed and a bit awkward. Hi, Juliet said. I'm Juliet, and this is my room. You're not allowed in. Got it? The boy, taken aback by this reception, simply nodded. Juliet, satisfied, went into her room and closed the door tightly. I'm Louis, the boy said. This is my room, and you're not allowed in either. You sleep there, he said, pointing. Why are you being so rude to your brother? Gerald scolded. Juliet can be a bit mean, but you, Louis, shouldn't you be interested in making friends with Eugene? I have plenty of friends already, Louis muttered and walked away. Don't mind them, Eugene, And don't be offended. They're not used to this yet, but I'm sure you'll become friends eventually. Come, let me show you where we've set up a space for you. You won't have a whole room to yourself, I'm afraid, but this is your corner. You can arrange your things here and set it up however you like, okay? Yes, thank you very much. I like it here. Great, let's go have lunch. We eat in the kitchen. It's big, and you'll have your own place there too, Willa said. She still wasn't used to the idea of having 3 children, almost teenagers, living in their home. He seems all right, quiet and not troublesome, the woman thought, though the only problems were her own children. She was going to enroll Eugene in school. It seemed simple enough. He would go to the same school as Juliet and Louis, but they were against it. If that freak goes to our school, we won't go, Juliet declared to her parents. I'm not going to embarrass myself and show everyone that I have a fat, red-headed relative. Louis was also against it, and the parents couldn't change their minds. This was the first concession the parents made. They enrolled Eugene in a different, less prestigious school, though this didn't seem fair to Willa. Sure, the boy wasn't very attractive, but he was ordinary and not stupid. He did well in school. Why were her children so hostile towards him? Eugene's character was even better than her own children's. He was quiet, tried not to bother anyone, and didn't cause trouble. Willa grew more and more fond of the boy, which only fueled her children's resentment. They called him names, and this hurt Eugene. Nevertheless, life went on. Several years passed. The family's financial situation improved, and soon Gerald was able to fulfill his and his wife's long-held dream of buying a spacious house in the nearby suburbs. Now, each child had their own room, but Juliet and Louis's feelings towards Eugene didn't improve. Willa, however, grew fonder of him. She saw Eugene's kindness, his innocence, and his willingness to help. There was no pretense in him. He genuinely had a good heart. He showed kindness, not just to people but to animals as well. Even back in their old apartment, Willa noticed that Eugene would save money instead of spending it on breakfast or fun, even though he loved to eat. He used the money to buy cheap sausages or cat meal to feed stray animals. This habit became another reason for Juliet and Louis to mock him. Moreover, Willa noticed that Gerald was growing colder towards Eugene. He tried to hide his feelings, but it was difficult to keep them from his wife. Willa also observed that Gerald was often irritated with everyone in the house, his own children and even her. Sometimes he even was totally rude to her, shaming. "You've fattened up your favourite. He was always chubby, and the older he gets, the worse it gets. It's embarrassing in front of people." "He's not fat, just a big boy. You're wrong, Gerald. And he has a kind heart. He feeds stray animals from his own savings." "Well, he must be the new Dr. Dolittle. Just wait until he brings home some sick animal. You'll end up taking care of it. Maybe he'll catch something and lose some weight." "What are you talking about? Why are you so hard on him? He's a good kid, does well in school and helps out when needed. You can't say the same about our own children." "Well, isn't that great? The outsider is more important to you than our own kids. Good job. And you know, I'm a real fool, taking on such a responsibility. Others had the sense to refuse, but not us. Now we're stuck with him forever." The children, Juliet and Louis, also sensed their father's feelings and tried to fuel his dislike for their adopted brother. They sometimes complained about him, blaming their own mistakes on Eugene. But the unfortunate boy kept silent, not showing his hurt. One day, 14-year-old Eugene came home with a black eye and a bloody nose. "What happened?" his mother cried in horror. Eugene was always a peaceful boy and never fought. "Well," the boy showed a small kitten. "3 guys wanted to throw him in the pond. I barely saved him." Eugene was proud of his deed. "Can I keep him?"
I'll take care of him myself, feed him and clean up after him. Please, Mum, look how cute and miserable he is."
"All right, keep him. What can we do? But take good care of him," Willa allowed with doubt. She knew Gerald didn't like animals in the house, and the children might take the kitten's arrival badly, just like everything Eugene did. But she didn't care. She wanted to please the boy, whom she really became attached to. Time passed. The children grew up. The first to leave the nest was Juliet. She was a talented artist. Her father found a way to send her to study in Rome. Willa did not object, but she cried bitterly. She had felt her daughter's detachment and alienation long before her departure, and understood that life apart would distance her girl even more. Juliet promised to call and write, but it was clear that her heart was already far away, and her mother's tears touched her little. Next to finish school was Eugene. He, too, could have gone to study abroad. His parents offered him the chance, but he declined, determined to enroll in the local veterinary school. It had been his lifelong dream. However, he didn't succeed on his first try and ended up working as an orderly in a veterinary clinic for several years. He had no interest in moving to any foreign countries, mainly because of Willa. He remembered how distressed she was when Juliet left and saw the family dynamics worsening. He didn't want to cause his foster mother any more pain. Louis, however, left a year later without a second thought. Soon, Willa would face another blow. "Well, dear, we've raised our children and helped them find their way, even exceeding our own expectations. It's time to start thinking about ourselves," Gerald stated firmly. Willa had no illusions. She knew their marriage had reached its end, but she still hoped to spend the rest of her life with her husband. "So, does that mean we haven't been living for ourselves until now?" she asked hesitantly. "You might have been. Your life is about children, home and evening TV shows. I, however, can still live a fuller life, the one I've long dreamed of. I don't know if you suspected in your busy life that I have another woman, but it's true, and I want to be with her." "And what about me?" Willa asked, bewildered. "You'll live as you always have, just without me. The house is yours. Even your precious Eugene will be by your side, so please don't make a scene. No crying. We're not young lovers. I'm not leaving you on the street with small children. You have a beautiful home, all the furnishings and money. What more do you want? For me to stay by your side? After all, you're not an old woman yet. You can find someone else for yourself." "Have you lost your mind? Who would I find? How could you do this? How would you wait until I'm old? Until the children leave and only to abandon me?" "You still have one child left, your precious Eugene. He'll never leave you. He'll probably even bring home more cats and dogs. The house is big enough. So don't get on my nerves and don't act like someone you're not." As Gerald spoke such harsh words to his wife, he continued packing his belongings, showing his resolve. Yes, Willa was left alone, or rather with Eugene, who might also soon leave to start his own adult life. Her own children, having moved out, rarely visited their mother, only coming by when they needed something. And now they would likely turn to their father for financial help. Willa, realizing that begging or trying to shame her husband was pointless, could only cry helplessly. The family had crumbled. She was left with only Eugene, not her biological son, but the closest person to her. When Eugene returned home, Gerald was already gone. Seeing his mother in tears, the young man was deeply concerned. "What's wrong, Mum?" "Everything's fine, Eugene, but your father has left. He has a new life, a new family, and he doesn't want us any more." Tears welled up in her reddened eyes again. Eugene embraced the woman who had been his mother for 10 years. "Mum, don't cry, please. There's nothing we can do. These things happen. I'll never leave you, I promise. And Juliet and Louis will always be on your side." "They'll be on their own side, Eugene. You're the only one who stayed with me, kind soul. And even you will soon find me a burden." "What are you saying? You'll see, soon Juliet and Louis will return, and maybe even father. We know how these young women can be demanding. No, Mum, don't cry. Don't worry. You'll be happy again." Time passed. Healing her wounds, Willa came to terms with her husband's betrayal. She lived in a large house with Eugene. No one was rushing to return. Juliet, having completed her studies, remained abroad. She got married there and rarely kept in touch. Louis returned without even finishing his education. However, things were going well for him. The young man started his own business and got married. His father helped him buy an apartment. He visited Willa rarely, and she barely got to know his wife. But undoubtedly his mother was needed by Louis, which once manifested in the most unexpected way. "Mum, I'm in trouble," Louis declared, arriving pale and serious. "My business failed and I tried to save it. In short, I'm now in terrible debt, and I don't know how to pay it back." "Well, son, I don't have that kind of money. Have you talked to your father?" "Of course. He said he would help, but he's not in a good place right now, so there's no hope for him, only for you. You wouldn't want to find me with my head bashed in, would you? They're terrible people." "No, Louis, no, but what can I do? Take out a loan? But will they give it to me?" "A loan won't save the situation. The only option is to sell the house. The money will be just enough to pay off the debt. I've checked." "Sonny, I'm willing to do anything, but where will Eugene and I live?" "That's not a problem. My wife and I have a 3-bedroom apartment. There's always room for you there." "And what about Eugene?" "Eugene, he's an adult. Let him live his own life. He's not the little orphan boy you and Dad took in anymore. He's a grown man now." "But son, I can't do that to Eugene. He's our son too." "Ah, I see. He's a son, and I'm a son. He can't live his own life without your roof. But I can lie peacefully in the cold ground. Thanks, Mum." Louis stood up and headed for the door. "Wait, Louis. All right, I agree. Sell it if there is no other way." "Mum, I've laid it all out for you. Either I pay off the debt or I get killed. The money from the house will barely cover the debt." Just then, Eugene arrived. Louis explained the situation to him. Shrugging, Eugene said, "What's there to think about? If there's no other way, we have to sell the house. I can move into the dormitory, and Mum can stay with you. She'll be comfortable there. I'll visit you. So, Mum, don't worry about me." And so it was decided. Willa cried. Too many memories were tied to this house, and moving in her old age to an essentially stranger's apartment, where another unfamiliar woman was the mistress, was hard and hurtful, but there was no other way. Eugene tried his best to comfort his mother. He assured her that he would be perfectly comfortable in the dormitory, and that she would be well taken care of by her son, and no one would lose anything. And in time, Louis would surely succeed and buy her a separate apartment, as he promised. Willa could only nod doubtfully. She couldn't believe in a happy ending to her own life. So life changed dramatically. Eugene did not feel unhappy or deprived. On the contrary, he finally started his own independent life. Even if it was in a dormitory, he was among friends and like-minded students. Yes, after graduating from the vet school, he would have to think about housing and work, but the young man was confident he would manage. The only thing that worried him was the life of Willa. No matter how much he tried to convince her that everything would be all right, He wasn't so sure himself. He didn't believe Louis had acted in her best interest. If Louis put his own interests above his mother's once, what would stop him from doing it again? Initially, he visited Willa in her new home quite often. She was always overjoyed by these visits from Louis, and especially his young wife made it clear through their behaviour that Eugene's visits were not welcome. Willa never complained about her new life. She seemed a bit sad, but otherwise healthy and full of energy. Eugene decided that his concerns were unfounded. Louis was her own son. He wouldn't mistreat his mother. Yes, he had sold her house, but that was due to extraordinary circumstances. Now it seemed he was doing well, and could keep his promise to buy his mother an apartment. But why should she live alone? It would be better for her to live with her son. Eugene thought like that, and reduced his visits, increasingly relying on phone calls. But then even the phone calls dwindled. More often than not, it was Louis or his young wife who answered the phone. They showed little interest in Eugene's affairs and responded curtly to his inquiries about his mother's health. "What did you expect? Mum's fine. She went for a walk, got tired and fell asleep. We shouldn't wake her, should we? Call back another time, but not too late. We go to bed early." After several such responses, Eugene became increasingly worried. He decided to visit in person to make sure his mother was okay, but this only intensified his concerns. He wasn't allowed to see Willa. "Why are you bothering us? Who do you think you are, checking up on us? Willa has a cold and is resting now." With that, Louis's wife shut the door. Subsequent visits were even more pointless. No one answered the door. Meanwhile, Eugene's graduation from the vet school was approaching. Eugene couldn't imagine not visiting the woman who had raised him, but once again Louis answered the phone. "You again? Oh, you finally graduated. What are you talking about? What mother? My mother is sick. She can't attend any events. She's alive, as I said, but she's ill and probably won't get better. We've placed her in a special nursing home for chronic patients. Go ahead, blame me. How could I? Well, I could, and you would have done the same. Who wants to care for a bedridden old woman? Don't lecture me. We don't have money for nurses or doctors, but she'll get everything she needs there. Here's the address. Visit her if you have nothing better to do." Eugene had plenty to do, but how could he not visit his mother? He rushed to the nursing home to find out what was wrong and how he could help. For the first time in a long while, he saw Willa and barely recognized the frail, pale old woman lying motionless on the bed. It was impossible to believe that this was the same woman who had always been so active, energetic and well-groomed. He rushed to the doctor in charge of the patients. "What's wrong with my mother? Why does she look like this? Is recovery possible?" he asked urgently. "Honestly, there's nothing particularly alarming. She could have lived much longer, but she lost her will to live. She's depressed and has no interest in anything. She barely eats, doesn't get up and doesn't speak. Why did you leave her like this? Only the care and attention of relatives could help, but that's precisely what she lacks." Eugene rushed back to the woman. "Mum, dear," he said, kneeling by her bed. "Do you recognize me? Forgive me, darling. I love you, and I will never leave you again. Soon I'll take you to live with me. Do you hear me? And until then I'll visit as often as I can." Willa heard everything. She smiled weakly and stroked her adopted son's hair. Eugene wondered what to do next. Should he take his mother home? But where? He would soon have to leave the dormitory, since he was no longer a student. He had no apartment, no relatives to turn to. But he found a solution. Eugene accepted a job assignment in a rural area, where he was a much-needed specialist. They provided him with a small house. Soon he moved his mother there. By this time she had begun to emerge from her depressed state, realizing that she was still needed by someone. "You know, Eugene,
When Gerald returned from your parents' funeral and said we should adopt you, I was against it. Why, I asked, when we already have 2 of our own? And look at them now. I haven't heard from Juliet in years, though I hear she's alive and well. Louis abandoned me completely. He dropped me off at some shelter like a bag of trash. And as for Gerald, well, what can I say? Only you have stayed by my side. Mum, don't dwell on it. As you can see, we're starting a new life now. I promise it will be a happy one. You're already getting better, and it would be hard not to improve in a place like this. Get out more. Enjoy the sun. Breathe the fresh air. And can you forgive me for not wanting to take you in? What are you talking about? Who would have wanted to? We were strangers after all. But who became the closest and dearest to me? And as for Juliet and Louis, maybe they'll come to their senses one day and visit us. Why not? They loved you too, I remember. And Willa began to come back to life, to recover. Whether it was the fresh air, healthy food, walks, or her son's care and attention, she realized that it was too early to count herself out. She was needed by Eugene, and besides, she was the mother of a man respected in the village. Willa dyed her grey hair, styled it, and began to return to her former self. And soon a real celebration came. Eugene decided to get married. His chosen one was a local girl, beautiful and kind, ready to love and respect her mother-in-law. At the wedding, the bride's parents gave a substantial sum of money, which helped Eugene fulfill his long-held dream of opening his own veterinary clinic. But most importantly, children soon appeared in his family. First a boy, then 2 girls. Willa helped raise her grandchildren, rejoiced in their successes, and seemed to have forgotten her past sorrows. In her old age, she finally found happiness, surrounded by love and respect, which probably helped her live a long life. Willa lived to an old age, even seeing her great-grandchildren. But until the very end, Eugene sometimes saw her standing by the window, looking at the gate. She's waiting for Louis and Juliet, he guessed.